Financial freedom has impacted all of our lives in various ways, whether we long for it, whether we have it, whether we're confused about what that even means, especially when it comes to living faithfully to God. And financial freedom has been something that has been dear to my heart. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you the 6 biblical principles that I have found that actually gave me financial freedom. And I'm not just talking about the society's view of financial freedom right now, which is to live free and go do whatever you want and have all this money passively and have millions so that you can travel to Bali and work in your pajamas eating gelato. I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to do, I guess. But I believe that financial freedom biblically really is being detached from and kind of obsessed with what the world has to offer. And it keeps us kind of stuck in this rat race versus being free to really serve God and to steward our lives. So I'm going to share with you the 6 principles that have had the biggest impact on my life and given me financial freedom, in the sense of I'm now free to serve God as myself, to respond to Him, to bring about God's kingdom, and to enjoy Him in the process, versus living a life constantly chasing this version of success that isn't really biblical, that is draining, exhausting, and not really living from a true place of inner freedom. Really, it's about inner freedom versus what the number of your bank account is. Some principles from the Bible that I don't mention might resonate more with you. And if they've given you freedom and they're bringing you closer to God and to who He's created you to be, that's awesome. I support that. The inspiration for this video came from this one right here that has gotten a lot of traction, I believe, because it hits on a pain point of how spending our money really deals with a scarcity and our feelings of trust and security and stability. And those things are something that God, I believe, wired in us so that we can come to Him for that. And money is one of those things that can represent that for a lot of people. At least that's what I've seen in my life. Like I say in all my videos, take what you need and leave the rest. First, what really sticks out to me is from Matthew 6:24. It says, "You cannot serve 2 masters. You cannot serve both God and money." I believe the verse is actually translated mammon, which is the god of money. So like this force or this kind of spirit of money. I think the age, at least I live in America, I feel like some of the sins of America, if you will, are just this obsession with looking good and being successful and this greed and this desire for more, versus saying, okay, I have enough. And when we're worried about having more, it can lead to all types of greed, selfishness, which is it's self-focused. And I believe financial freedom for me has looked like not being enslaved to needing to have more in an excessive amount, where it's actually causing me to not be available to what God is doing in my life. And I'm then trapped in this vicious cycle of producing more, of being more. It kind of goes hand in hand with when Jesus says, to find your life, you need to lose it. And I don't think he's talking about actually losing your physical life, but the emotional attachments to things that are temporal, or as Paul likes to say, the fading things. So when we're so attached to them, we're not attached to God. And so serving God becomes very difficult, if not impossible. Now, we're all full of attachments as humans. We're going to die with attachments. I know I will. It's not like this where I'm transcending everything and I'm completely detached and I'm like St. Francis, where I'm taking a vow of poverty and I'm choosing to live on the streets. Some people can really choose to do that. If that's a calling for you, I think that's something to discern and then listen to. Some people do take vows of poverty. A lot of people that go into the vocation of celibacy take vows of poverty, especially like in the Catholic Church. And sometimes missionaries can do that. Ultimately, financial freedom is not being attached to money over what God is doing in my life. The first principle I'd say is stewardship. And really that means living within my means and stewarding what's really going on in my life in reality, and not living, as some people like to say, borrowing from the future version of me. So having something now and having to worry about paying for it later, I've seen that get a lot of people in trouble. It's actually gotten me in trouble, in the sense of when I thought that paycheck or that thing would come through to pay off this thing, I ended up being in trouble or paying more because of interest. And that kind of put me back. It gave me stress. So the verse that stuck out to me for this is 1 Timothy 6:6-12. I won't read the whole thing. I encourage you to read it on your own, but it says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils. I think realizing meaning in my life is not determined by how much I have. So you've probably heard the phrase having a champagne diet on a beer budget. If you have a beer budget, then drink beer. I'm not telling you to drink beer. That's obviously like a phrase. I'm saying under the weather, but realizing that, okay, maybe I can't afford some of these things. And if I want to afford them, then I need to potentially plan, which will be my last principle. So living within my means also means being proactive and thinking about the future and using some of those key principles like saving up and not expecting that the future version of me or other people are going to take care of me, but actually being responsible for what I have and being able to say no to what I can't afford so that I'm not stuck in a cycle of having to pay off something or fill up my time with more work when I could have said no and been patient for something. And then it also means for me putting my money in the right places, actually looking at my money, having a budget and saying, what can I really afford? What is really reasonable here? Using my mind, the mind that God gave me, using all the wisdom that is, I think, available to us with books and other people, financial planners, and actually asking them to help me look through what do I really have and then how do I respond faithfully to whatever's here. And then the next principle is to eliminate debt, to not be stuck in this cycle again of paying off things that are costing me more and more money with high interest, like credit cards or taking out big car loans so that I can look or feel a certain way. And if I can't actually afford it, if it's not within my budget. So getting rid of debt, including student loans or things like that, and thinking about if I can't fully afford it, if I can't pay for it right now and not be stressed, then I actually cannot afford it. And it's not something that I can have unless it's like a real emergency, like fixing my car so that I can get to work to continue to make more money. Obviously, that's like a good thing to do. The verses that inspire me. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. So if I'm borrowing money, I'm enslaved to pay them back and they're going to take an interest and they kind of own me. So credit card companies can own me. The car loan company owns me. If I don't pay, they might take it back. And I've seen this in my own life when I was growing up. There was a couple times where our electricity got turned off and our water got turned off because there just were lack of resources. And while we can survive without those things, this is a new phenomenon that we have running water and electricity, which is amazing. Grateful for that. But some people even now still don't have those things. I will be a slave to whoever I owe money to until I pay those things off. And I won't be able to have as many resources if I cannot afford to take care of my life. So that one has really helped me get out of debt and then to stay out of debt and to be diligent to get it behind me. And Dave Ramsey talks a lot about this, where he's like, as soon as you stop having debt, all of a sudden you'll have money. You'll actually have money to save and to accumulate and to buy other things and to maybe be able to give generously. So getting rid of debt. Huge. Total disclaimer, however you want to spend your money, I encourage you to talk to experts, to talk to financial planners, and to really get good education on this. I'll link some resources below, like Crown Ministries was a Bible study that I did on money, and that was really helpful. You have different resources and experiences, so some of these things may not apply to you. So you have to really reflect, like, what are the things that God is teaching me now? How can I cooperate with Him so that I can move towards financial freedom? I know for me, when I was juggling a car payment and student loans, it became a time sucker, not just a money sucker. It became a time, energy, and it drained my relationships. It put stress on me to manage a lot of different accounts. And so closing those accounts, being simple about how I spent my money and what I invested in, helped me to have peace of mind. And so getting rid of debt and actually being able to focus where I put my money helped me to gain financial freedom, really, which is this peace of mind that I know that I can live and respond to God in the way that He's called me to, because I'm not kind of trapped in this cycle of paying off things and wasting money on interest versus stewarding my money or being able to give it away or save for something. Next principle, obviously, is living generously. In 2 Corinthians 9:6-8, Paul talks about how God loves a cheerful giver and how it's really a position of the heart. It's not about doing it begrudgingly or, oh, I have to give money, I have to tithe, that I have to do the right thing. As soon as we start saying have to with things, I encourage you to check your spirit and go, where is that coming from? Oftentimes that comes from shame or this sense of duty, which can be divorced from love. And a cheerful giver is something done out of an abundance mentality. It's something that's done out of gratitude, out of thankfulness, out of humility and saying, Lord, everything belongs to you. You've been so generous to me. So everything that I own is yours, and as a response to God. And we all have different amount of resources too. And in Matthew 6:19, he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Where your treasure is, your heart will be also. So as you give, you are saying, my treasure is in other people flourishing or other things flourishing, not just me. And it doesn't mean we divorce ourselves and we abandon ourselves and neglect ourselves. Actually, I found that if I don't take care of my finances, if I don't steward, if I don't make sure that my household kind of is in order, and there's other scriptures that speak to that, then I will be stressed, I will be a burden on other people, and I will become very scared, and a lot of scarcity can come with that, which can lead to other types of just toxicity, which I'm no judgment if that's what you're experiencing right now, because it is stressful dealing with financial stuff. So as I take care of myself, I'm then able to then not kind of move in greed, but to be generous with other people and to actually have that be a muscle. I remember listening to a sermon, and everyone can decide how they do this in their own household, but it was, when you get a paycheck, learn the muscle, even if it's something small, to like, I'm going to give something from this, and then I'm going to save something from this paycheck and then spend it on my needs. And I liked that order of like being able to kind of have open hands and just kind of say, Lord, this is yours, and I am going to give back to you as a truthful response of what I've been given. Even if I worked hard for the money, I've been given the competency to work. So it's just a real reciprocal relationship. It's a responsiveness to God. And so being generous is something that we can grow into. It's not just, oh, when I feel like it, but how do I cultivate the type of life where I am generous in response to God's generosity, which means opening up to and reflecting on what he's done for me, what he's given me has helped me like loosen up my like grip on things and like tight-fistedness, but saying, nope, it's yours without neglecting myself. Proverbs 11:25 says, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. This principle might seem counterintuitive. Giving away can actually lead to financial freedom, because what I found is the more I'm actually generous to other people, there's this natural reciprocity where people are generous towards me. Like if I promote something of someone else's business, they'll be grateful. And I tend to find more people that are generous and grateful too, and they include and see me. The more we love one another, if there's a healthy response to love, we will be loved in return. So I found that the more I'm giving, not just of my money, but my time and my resources and some of who I am, I find that I actually receive more. And it's not because I'm doing this to receive more, but it's because I don't want to live in a scared, gripping, rigid way that kills my own soul, and it really sucks the air out of the room, if you will. Luke 6:34-35 says, even if you lend to those who you expect to receive, what credit is it to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to get back the same amount. But love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. So one of these principles, including being generous, is if someone wants to borrow money, it can really put a damper on the relationship if I'm expecting the money back. I remember having a lot of resentment for giving a family member when I was in high school days a lot of money. I remember counting it in my head, like, I've given this person $20,000, and I was so resentful, and I felt like I had to do it because that's what good Christians do. I remember feeling so resentful, and it put a big wedge in our relationship, and I couldn't really articulate that because I was 15 at the time. But looking back now, and my heart has shifted, I was really going against what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep the money for myself, and because when you're 15, you're trying to save up. I was trying to, buy a car and pay for school. And so now if somebody asks for money and I feel drawn to give them, and they say, oh, I'll pay you back, I give the money not expecting to get it back. Because if I am, then now I feel there's this wedge in our relationship. And so if I give money, I'm giving it. I'm not expecting it back. That has freed me up so that I know when I'm giving money away, I don't actually need that money. Or maybe I do, but I know I have enough to not put me in danger or put me at threat. Because if I do that, then I'm going to move into a crisis and I'm going to affect other people, and that just kind of snowballs. So I found that letting go and giving away cuts the emotional ties, not just the financial ties with that person, so that I can still be really loving and open to others. The next principle is contentment, and that is kind of just saying I have enough. Obviously Philippians 4, where Paul says, I have learned how to be content, whether I'm in want or in need. And so being able to be present to God, even when things are tight or something doesn't work out in my favor, when someone has either taken from me or I've found myself in a situation that was either my own fault or just a result of the economy, whatever it is, being content and being willing to adjust and willing to experience pain even when something's taken away has really helped me be financially free. That doesn't mean I don't work harder in seasons because there is a real need. Practicing contentment has also helped me not overspend. I have this like 24-hour rule. If I put something like in the Amazon cart, I'm like 24 hours. If I don't really need it, then I give that time to not emotionally buy, to be like, is this really going to add value to my life? Or is this going to be creating a problem? Is it going to be taking from a future version of me? Am I going to have to work hard next month just to pay for this momentary luxury or convenience now? Nothing wrong with convenience, but I've found that being content and saying, I have enough, God is enough, even though I don't feel like I'm enough and it's enough, I am. And so just to practice that habit has helped me, again, not make decisions out of fear, but out of love, out of a sense of security. And it's been a muscle. It's something to learn through Christ's Spirit, not something that I have to just like transcend and like fake. I think if we try to fake it, we'll just become more and more frustrated. At least I have. So being grateful, saying, I'm grateful for this. This is wonderful. And sometimes saying like, yeah, I'm on a beer budget. And I don't really want to be drinking beer right now, but I can't have that champagne. Again, metaphor. People get really weird about that. I'm just saying as an idiom? Idiom. I don't know. Anyways, Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. There's been so many studies, psychologists have talked about this with money too, that like no matter how much money you make, like the happiness doesn't really go up after a certain number, and it's just more money, more problems kind of thing. Really, again, unless you're stewarding it well and you're giving back. But what people really need to live a full life is not often what the world portrays as the standard of living. The next principle that has helped me is planning. And it's not something I really was taught growing up or applied, maybe. Maybe I was taught it and I didn't even apply it. I don't know. Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. And then in Luke 14:28, Jesus says, for which of you intend to build a tower doesn't sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough sufficient, funds basically to finish it. If he doesn't, then after he lays the foundation, he won't be able to finish it. Everyone will laugh at him, basically saying, be prudent, think about, do I have plans to carry this out? We cannot see the future. I can't see the future. So sometimes I hope the best. I've done my calculations. I've looked at the economics of this and I make decisions, and some life just happens sometimes and we can't control everything. But to what degree can we plan for something, or can I plan for something? For example, when I was thinking about potentially putting a down payment on a house, if I would put a down payment on the house, but it drained my resources and then all of a sudden my car breaks down, that's not planning to be able to sustain it. If I had to drain everything of my savings or my finances, then I'm really dependent on, I hope I'm able-bodied to work next month. If I'm not, then I'm going to be in a very sticky, very dependent situation, which happens. And it's important to ask for help, and things that happen that are unforeseen, but not planning has been really detrimental to my life. And this biblical principle of being wise and saying, what is this really going to take? So that I'm not in a bind and I'm not able to continue to help bring about God's kingdom in the world. I'm going to be stressed. It's going to take me from my relationships. Proverbs 13:16 says, a wise man thinks ahead, a fool doesn't, and even brags about it. One of the things that is interesting is the book Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel, I think he said like 20% of money is strategy and 80% is behavior. And so planning and actually executing on how I spend my money and what my patterns and behaviors are, which are learned, my character around money, is so important, because that's where the actual fruit of it comes from, is me doing the hard work and the heavy lifting up front so that I can continue to behave in the way that is going to be fruitful down the road. Morgan Housel talks about how, so that money isn't necessarily rooted in science or math, but it's really in our emotions. It's a behavioral, emotional response. And we're emotional beings. We have emotions, thoughts, we have drives, we have impulses, we have trauma in our life, we have funky theology about money. We have lots of things, and we have a relationship with money. Some of us are afraid of it. We think it's bad. It's like, I have it, I'm somehow sinful. And I don't think that seems to be true at all in Scripture. I think the kind of the core of the matter that I see, at least the logic in scripture, is what is the heart behind this? What are you doing with that? Where is your heart in position to it? Are you serving God? Is God the leader of our hearts, or is it something else? Is it something from culture? Which, again, we're all affected by culture. Like, you can't just transcend it, but it's something to be aware of. And then I found when I'm aware of it, I can then make different decisions more aligned with God's leading and how God's spirit works within me. And the last principle is working hard. Work ethic has really helped me gain financial freedom. When I was going to seminary, I didn't want to take out a bunch of student loans, so I worked an extra job. And while it definitely limited my time, it gave me a lot more freedom. So when I graduated, I was able to really invest being spiritual director and helping working at a church where I was making less money, because I was able to save and not be in a mountain of debt like I was for my undergrad. So learning from that experience and saying, okay, Lord, how do I apply my work ethic here? And how can I steward this season? Say no to other things. I didn't take trips. I didn't order a beverage whenever I go out to eat. Not that that's bad. And actually, I remember being so stingy after I was in college because I was so used to that. And I had to remember, okay, Meryl, you can loosen up a little bit. I think we can be on the other spectrum too, where we're not just spending everything, but we're like saving everything because we're afraid and doing things in fear. I found that keeping that open to God and saying, Lord, why am I really doing? Why am I saving? Am I saving because I'm trying to be intentional and loving towards myself and other people? Or am I saving because I'm terrified or I don't want X to happen? And so we have to kind of keep those motives in check, and having this biblical principle of working hard and then letting go and letting God provide and the fruit of your labor be something that is to be enjoyed has helped me live free emotionally from this stress of money. So 2 Thessalonians 3:10-12 says, even when we were with you, we gave you this rule: the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. We hear that some among you are idle and disruptive. They are not busy, they are busybodies, which such people we command and urge in the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and earn the food they eat. So if they're distracted and it sounds like that they're not actually contributing and they're just kind of doing things to kind of create, I don't know, chaos. I'm just imagining, I don't know. I wasn't there when Paul was writing this, but it sounds like that if we can work and we can contribute and have food to eat, we can earn it, then it frees up other people to then be able to experience their gifts, and we burden other people. So I found caring for myself is a way of caring for other people. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, but if anyone does not provide for his own, especially of those of his household, he is denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Yeah, that's crazy. Then Proverbs 14:23 says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk only leads to poverty. So actually, working hard can be very fruitful. Now, I don't want to work too much on things because it can be really easy to overwork, and that can be just as unhealthy as working too little. It's just a different result. I found that work is actually a gift. I feel like I can love and serve God in working and other people at the same time. Those are the principles that have really impacted me specifically on financial freedom and helped me temper this cultural push in the sense of building a life you love and kind of selling this dream. There's so much cultish guru stuff on YouTube or other places that it's like, if you do this, you'll have money. And there's nothing wrong with money. God gives to us and he gives us something to steward. We can steward it. If he takes that away, am I married to this outcome? Am I married to the number in my bank account, or am I really married to Christ? Do I really have union with Christ? And so that's where this conversation goes, is what's my relationship with money? How am I able to embody Christ to other people? How do I bring God to where I am in every situation? And how do I find God in every situation? And it's so much easier said than done, but I believe that's our journey. That's the journey I believe that all of us are on. And it can be easy to get distracted with this principle and moralizing stuff. It's so wonderful that God has given us a lot of tools. There's a lot of wise financial people on the internet and got good programs and financial advisors. I have a financial advisor. It's so good to get people that are experts on this and that have gone through the process. And so I encourage you to talk to somebody that you feel like you need. So I encourage you to think through, what are the principles that I am living by? Are they how God wants me to live around this area of my life? Or is there something that God maybe is inviting me to let go of or to shape? Or does he want to heal something in my life? We are all on a journey of healing in this area because it impacts all of our lives, even if we aren't even stewarding money. If your parents are providing for you for everything because you're still living in your home and you're a teenager, we're still learning what it means to steward, even if we're not technically dealing with money. How we do one thing is how we do everything. I hope this blessed you. My name is Meryl. I'm a spiritual director. I have some free resources down below if you are interested, and I will see you in the next video.